And Saul, who wanted to get rid of him, said, okay, let me, you can't come up with a dowry, so here's what you can do. Do you remember this story? He said, you bring me 100 foreskins, Philistine foreskins, and you can marry my daughter. Now, you wonder why you didn't remember that story. First off, your Sunday school teacher probably didn't even explain what a foreskin was. Right? Now, in order to get somebody's foreskin, you pretty much have to kill them. They just kind of don't surrender that voluntarily. And David went out and he got 200. Didn't bring back just 100, brought back 200. And the text says he counted them out to the king. Okay. How do you think? You guys aren't even thinking about lunch anymore, are you? Okay. I can preach forever today because you're not hungry anymore. What a strange story. Boasting in the flesh. We did some strange things when we came over, I say as European descendants, came over to the New World. And when we try to eradicate different peoples, indigenous peoples, we introduced this idea of pelts. Yeah, the scalping thing came from Europe. To prove that you had killed an indigenous person, you showed their scalp. Now the indigenous people picked that up and said, okay, we can get into that too. And there was these little scalping things. And what do you have to boast about? Yeah. Look at this part of this flesh that he wouldn't have given up unless he was dead. Boasting in the flesh. Weird. Okay? Paul said these people want to boast in the fact that you cut off part of your flesh. What a strange thing for us. Huge thing in the church of Galatians, in that area. Huge thing. He said they don't obey the law. They want to boast in your flesh. He says, may I never boast except in the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, through which the world has been crucified to me and I to the world. He said, if I ever get into boasting about somebody's flesh, I'd be embarrassed. I'd be ashamed. The only thing I want to boast about is the cross, the very thing that they're ashamed of. Because in the cross of Jesus, in that sacrifice Jesus made, I died. I was crucified to the world, and the world was crucified to me. And something brand new happened. Okay. Let me see if I can bring this in. I was just with a bunch of religious people this weekend. You know how that makes me feel? Ken's going, I don't know, how much this can you handle? One time I saw this ad. This preacher put on there, he was looking for we have a different way of doing search and call. But this was before I knew about the disciples. And I was looking at this ad. This guy was wanting a new job, and he put on there that he had baptized over 10,000 people. Wow. That's pretty impressive, right? How did he keep track of that? Did he notch his Bible? Remember the old notches on a gun thing? In the West, you kill somebody with a gun, you make a little notch on it. Or on your airplane in World War II, you shot down an enemy plane, okay. Fantastic. 10,000 people made a commitment to Jesus. That's fantastic. Who gets credit for it? Okay. Boasting. Taking credit for something. Yeah, I helped this person come to Jesus. Well, you might have. That's great. But who actually brought that person to Jesus? Wouldn't it be Jesus? Right? We love to see baptisms. We love baptisms here at Southside. We haven't seen there enough of them. And I haven't experienced there enough of them. We love baptism the same way we love to go to see newborn babies. And we love to come to weddings because it reminds us of God being at work and new creation and God taking two people and making them one and all the amazing things that God does. And Paul in Corinthians, he was getting compared to other super apostles. And one question he came up with about who did he baptize? And you know what Paul said? I don't remember. He said, I remember baptizing that family, and I remember baptizing that. Other than that, I don't remember. Why not? Why not, Paul? Why don't you remember everybody you ever baptized into Christ? Paul said, well, that would mean me taking credit for it. It's not about me. It's about Jesus being at work in this person's life. It's about this person becoming a new creation because of the cross of Christ. That's what it's about. Can we boast in that? Okay. Again, anything you can compare yourself to somebody else. When I get into a group of other preachers, it's a weird thing. Okay, it's weird. I love the other ministers. I know they're calling. I respect their calling. But you get a bunch of them together, and you get this weird dynamic. How are things going at Southside? Oh, well, what do you mean? Well, how's your attendance? Huh? We're doing pretty good. How's yours? Great. Going up. Well, that's encouraging, right? Was that what the question was about? You could have said, are you encouraged with how things are going at Southside? Guys, this is something we struggle with in our sinful nature. This is something the ministers struggle with. This is something that we struggle with as a congregation. This is something that either it's God's work or it's ours. Either we can take credit for it, or all the credit goes to Jesus. Boasting in the flesh. Comparing ourselves with somebody else. Paul said, there are a group of people out there that want to boast. He said, the only thing I'm going to boast in is that Jesus had to die for me. That's the only thing I'm going to boast in. Jesus had to make that sacrifice for me. And He loved me enough to do that. And it was my sin that made that necessary. And I won't boast in anything but the cross of Jesus Christ, through whom the world was crucified to me and I to the world. That's terminology used in chapter 2, verse 20. Right? In Galatians 2:20. I have been crucified with Christ. I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave Himself for me. He's used that terminology already in this book. In chapter 6 of Romans, he talks about when they were baptized, they were crucified, they died. Whose work is that? The one that was on the cross. The one that made that sacrifice. Paul says, here's the only thing I can boast about. I needed Jesus to die for me. And in doing so, the text says, goes on, he says, verse 15, neither circumcision nor uncircumcision means anything. What counts is a new creation.